from Bombay. This is part of a national series that we're running to examine the implications of climate change for India. We're joining you today from the Bombay Natural History Society, from their auditorium, and BNHS is also one of our two partners for this afternoon's City Dialogue on Climate Change. Our other partner is the Asia Society India Centre. We're privileged to be working with them on this issue locally. We know concern is rising across the world about the rising temperature. Our planet now is the hottest that it's ever been in 650,000 years. And many say that climate change is the gravest existential threat that faces our civilization. Of course, as a species, we may continue to live on. We're monkeys after all, and monkeys are extremely adaptive. However, whether our cities and our civilizations continue is a matter up for grabs for discussion. As the world population now moves to living more and more in cities and become more and more urbanized, it's appropriate that we start a conversation here in India about what climate change means for our cities, what it means in particular for Mumbai and her future. To start the discussion on this subject, we went to the people.
पर्यावरण म्हणजे आता सध्या म्हणजे जगभरात म्हणायला गेलं तर किंवा आपल्या भारतामध्ये वृक्षतोड झालेली आहे. नवीन ग्लोबलायझेशन म्हणा त्याच्यामुळे आणखीन क्रांती जसं आपण बदलत जातोय त्याप्रमाणे वृक्षतोड होते, पर्यावरणाचा ऱ्हास होत चाललेला आहे. नवीन पूल येत आहे पण त्याच्यामागे 10 झाडं तोडलेली जात आहेत, 10 के जास्त झाडं तोड. त्याच्यामुळे आणखीन आपल्याला ह्याचा त्रास आपल्यालाच होतोय. ह्याच्यामध्ये आपण जेवढं हे संतुलित म्हणजे दोन्हीकडे आपण संतुलन साधलं पाहिजे, तर त्यात संतुलन साधूनच आपण पुढे गेलो पाहिजे.
आज मुंबई गणेशोत्सवाच्या निमित्ताने सर्व मुंबई ही उत्सवी वातावरणात आहे. या उत्सवी वातावरणामध्ये 2007 मध्ये मुंबईचं जे चित्र आज आपण सगळे बघतो आहोत ते चित्र आणि त्या मुंबईला जर आणखीन तिचं आयुष्य वाढवायचं असेल तर पर्यावरणाचा सुद्धा विचार त्या उत्सव मंडळाने केला पाहिजे. मी कौतुक करतो मुंबईच्या महापौरांचं की ज्यांनी अनेक माध्यमातून या पर्यावरणावरती समतोल राखला पाहिजे याची उत्सव मंडळांना एक गाईडलाईन किंवा मार्गदर्शक तत्व अशा प्रकारची प्रसिद्धी केली आहे. त्यामुळे निश्चितपणे या उत्सवामध्ये काम करणारे जे कार्यकर्ते त्यांना या मुंबईच्या पर्यावरणाचा समतोल राखण्यासाठी मदत होत आहे.
प्रथम म्हणजे मुंबईतले टॉवर. मुंबईतल्या टॉवरमुळे पर्यावरणाची पूर्णपणे वाट लागली जाते. त्याबरोबर मुंबईची लोकसंख्या वाढते.
Maharashtra Nature Park is a small but very strong example of how we can combat the problems arising out of the climate change. The city is generating garbage and garbage leads to dumping grounds. And this is a place which is developed on a dumping ground. This has set an example of vermicomposting and then water harvesting and then energy conservation, and then basically the park which is engaged into a complete program of environmental awareness, education.
Our partners tell us that there are 2 or 3 issues in particular that are of concern with regard to climate change. The first issue that they have identified is one of reclamation. The other area that they've identified is that of seawater ingress. Of course, we know that one of the phenomena associated with climate change is seawater rise and the encroachment of seawater into coastal areas, causing salinization of aquifers, etc. The third issue that's been identified is concern at the rate, the pace, the model of urbanization in Mumbai.
The reliability of our climate and the reliability of the sea's impact on land has changed. Everything has changed. All the past 100 years, whatever predictions we could make, all the bets are off. So what worries me right now about the city in which we live is that, number one, city planners, politicians, bureaucrats, including the business corporate sector, I would say that they're ecologically illiterate at that point right now. So I would anticipate, for instance, that Bombay City could lose 200,000 crore rupees worth of infrastructure from climate change. We have the technology. We have the technology to build for tomorrow's climate situation, but we don't have the mental space to think that this is what we should do now. Nicholas Stern, a wonderful man if you ever meet him, but forget about how wonderful he was. He's come across and produced the Stern Report. It says something simple, and that's a lesson for everybody in Bombay. You want to address the issues of climate change, either you'll adapt to it or you will mitigate them, or spend the money now and it might be just 1% of GDP, if it is 1% of GDP. It could be less. Don't do it, you could lose 30%, 40% of GDP. That means your internal security has gone shot to hell. Your life, as you know it and I know it, won't exist.
Growing city exerts ever greater needs, in particular of energy and power in terms of natural resources, water, but also it creates new expectation for amenities such as shopping malls and parks. Now, those are very difficult circles to square. Do you think that the city of Bombay geographically has reached the limits of its growth?
As a city administrator, I would see it as the vector-borne diseases will be increasing in city, so how to counter that, how to handle that. You have the rain patterns which have changed in this city. You are seeing that by 6th July this year, we had more than 50% of the annual rainfall already occurred in this city. If you so the rainfall frequency is changing, the intensity is changing, and at the same time, because of the climate change situations, the meteorological department is not able to predict.
Now, Bombay, of course, has some of the most expensive realty, some of the most expensive property, not just in India, but on the planet. It's a very desirable place to live. People want to come here and set up home. But do you think that the developers, the builders in this city have the first idea about climate change?
Urban sprawl has just increased. Transport has become a nightmare. People have stopped losing their cool because almost everyone has air conditioning and no one wants to roll down the window to shout insults at someone else on the road. Housing has gone through the roof. And surprisingly, cleanliness is not much worse than it used to be. So one good mark for the municipal corporation. Real estate, I don't think is even aware of climate change. For instance, take the shopping malls. Now, all of us know that glass in a tropical country on the exterior is a bad idea. But as I mentioned to Dr. Rajendra Pichori, demand-side management will not work. It has to be a price signal. You can actually easily legislate that if the exterior of a mall is more than 50% glass, then the power tariff for that mall is 10 times the normal power tariff. You see how quickly malls will stop having glass. So business understands price signals. Demand-side management is good to talk about, but it's always much better to price things properly. That's where.
Sangeeta, your foundation works to support some of the basic needs for some of the poorest people in the country. Now, in a city like Mumbai, housing is one of the most basic and yet one of the most unmet needs for the population. We know that in this city, the priority of the urban poor is not the priority of the developers. Now, how can you relate? What are your views on how the city can meet the housing needs of the poor while at the same time recognizing the limits to urban growth posed by climate change?
In India, there are very few people who really understand about climate change. People like us, we only talk about climate change. But we have so many problems in our country. Climate change is a very small issue.
The challenge of communication, not just alerting the well-educated middle classes about what climate change means to their lives, the food they eat, the water they drink, the homes they live in, etc., but reaching out to the poor who are going to be in the front lines and bear the heaviest brunt of climate change. As a communicator, do these themes play a role in your work? Do you see them playing more of a role in your work in the future?
A beginning's got to be made somewhere, So if we can reach out to the aware who are already converted, you're still motivating public opinion.
Now, many people think that technology is the great white hope in this area. For this city and the greater area of Mumbai, what kinds of similar innovations are you seeing taking place in the area of science and technology? And particularly, what role is your own institution playing in this?
2-3 things which can happen very critical in this city, besides anything else outside, is that the number of diseases that we see today, the prevalence, which is about 150,000, is going to go to about 550,000. And if we are looking at that number to be tackled by the existing infrastructure of clinics and the hospitals and all that doctors that we have, we are probably not even aware that what we need to do in next. And this figure I am saying in next 20 years time frame. So it's not large scale 100 years situation. The other one which was very critical for all of us to understand is that anything climate changing takes place, the impact on Mumbai will come not from the hotspot which you discussed just now, but it will come from outside. And because this city depends on most of its, eatables and water, everything from outside. So the footprint which it has created outside, when they are getting impacted, it will hurt Mumbai much more.
What are the kinds of issues that people associate in the city with local environmental pollution as opposed to their understanding of global climate change and how it affects the city?
The first thing that occurs to people when you ask them about the problems that exist around them is how does it affect their health? If you look at it this way, the medical bills are rising, the amount of days that people are spending away from work is increasing. The other thing that they normally relate to environmental issues is the fact that there's garbage on the streets. It's very, very uncomfortable to get to work and come back from work. These are the things that aggravate citizens. If you ask me whether people on the road would be concerned about the global climate change situation, I'd say no, and nor should they be on an individual basis. They are more than capable of addressing global issues through their representatives. One of Asia's largest landfills, garbage dumps, has been turned into a veritable forest. If you took a book under there, you could not read because the dense canopy is so dense that it's too dark. Now, if we have the technology to turn a garbage dump into forest, what good sense does it make for us to turn forests into garbage dumps? I mean, it just doesn't seem to make good sense, and that actual lack of good sense is, Rajiv, what my real angst is, that we have the ability to do this, and I think the gap between a citizen being upset and a politician realizing that that upset could actually throw me out, that hasn't been bridged yet because there's so much lubrication going on in the political system. There's money, there's temporary power, there's all kinds of things. So I think Bombay City, I entirely agree. I think that its footprint is so large. We take pride in the fact that we pay 25% of all India's taxes, but we probably produce 40% of most of India's pollution with the money that we do. I mean, we're either putting more carbon or we're ruining rivers or we're creating more dams. That is now water harvesting. It's a no-brainer. The rain is falling, it's going into the sea, catch it on your roof, use it, use less water, you'll be less dependent. The solution that we are opting for, but raise the wall of a dam by 9 feet more, 12 feet more, 14 feet more, we'll drown more forests.
You know some of the policy innovations because you work on them with regards to the right mass transit system for the city, the right way to use grey water, as we've just heard. Why is your institution, why are you not playing a more aggressive role in helping the city's leaders determine the right course of action?
So most of the industries in the city have been asked to, have a cutoff at which they cannot possibly emit, and therefore those levels have come down. The other thing which we did in 86 and between 86 and 96 to advocate standards for vehicles.
A few months ago there was a landmark issue of India Today where they had the iconic picture on the front of the gateway of India underwater. Now when you see these issues, these kind of images, what does it make you feel that you have to do for the city that you love?
There is the government and there is the NGO. It will be really nice if both the sectors work together to be cooperative. I think that would also work.
The Mayor of Mumbai has chosen to take some leadership externally on these issues. She attended the Clinton City Summit this May, which had about 40 plus mayors from all over the country, from all over the world. 2 came from India, herself, and of course the Mayor of Delhi. Now, as a consequence of that, what action is the city taking? Has there been a discussion at the municipal level about a climate change strategy for the city? And importantly, how can you begin to answer the critique that we've heard time again, which is that there is a confrontation, that there is a dissonance between the city on the one hand and the civil society on the other hand?
Your second question I would like to answer first. We don't see there is any conflict or there is any confrontation between the civil society and the local government. We need the basic data, where we are, how much quantum of greenhouse gases the city is emitting, what is the carbon footprint for this city. It's the basic issue is about attitudinal changes in the civic behavior of a citizen.
Why don't you use this as a start of a public advocacy, public awareness raising platform on climate change in Mumbai?
Civic governance to that aspect on this issue is completely well aware. We are talking about greenhouse gas emissions footprint in the city, we are talking about eco-housing project in the city for providing incentives to the citizens of Mumbai. And at the same time, we have taken up our scientific management of our landfill, which after, say, 2 years or 2 years down the line, 2 years, you will have more than 50 acres of land green, which is at present dumping ground. Unfortunately, what happens that people who are advocating about this and the municipal corporation, those who are proactively doing that, somewhere we are not able to come together and make it a synergy.
Bittu said that he was waiting for leadership at the national level. We need to see that kind of leadership at the city level also. So I think what we need to broaden the parameters of is going beyond pollution to a discussion of, well, what more can civic administrations do to inform people about the multiple ways in which the citizenry's lives will be affected.
Is it possible for the government to communicate a little more to all the civic society?
Because around the world we've seen that, for example, in countries like the United States, it's actually business which is now taking a proactive interest in this issue, because business requires a clear, predictable framework, policy framework to operate in. Around the world, Sailesh, we have a consensus emerging within the global business community that climate change presents the clearest and the defined risk to trade and commerce as we understand it. I think the city of Mumbai, companies such as yourselves, have received questionnaires from the Carbon Disclosure Project asking if you have strategies on climate change. Can you talk to me from your corporate perspective on what level of activity and awareness you're working on, and importantly, what level of leadership you're willing to take on this issue?
Wherever there is a problem, there's an opportunity. And I see this tremendous opportunity for business to profit from mitigating climate change.
What are the key things that need to be done for the city and its hinterland to assure its sustainability?
Be part of local initiatives, even if it's just my lane in the city. Not be cynical about people in power, but try to connect with them, involve them in the process, because alert citizens make good politicians.
We are transforming our whole building as an example of how can you be eco-friendly. So we work very closely with many of the smaller NGOs who would want to get enough technical data and want to share and communicate with others.
An empowered city government, I hope that doesn't take 20 years, it takes 2 years, number one. Number two, we need at least 5 Mumbai Trans-Harbour links, because that will automatically decongest Mumbai and shift the focus to the mainland. Why the heck are we only bothered about the island? There's a whole big landmass there. Number 3, public transport, and how efficient public transport can change the economy of the city, so you don't have to squat right next to your place of work. And perhaps, what will I do personally? I will not buy a Honda CR-V.
Yeah, in one form or the other, it's all connected, what we do publicly, what we do privately. A lot of us do a lot, very little, a lot gets done. And I have to compliment the municipal corporation. It's very easy for us to criticize them, but they're not the guys who are going out spitting on the streets, And the fact is that they're not employed over there so that we can clean up after us. There has to be a certain sense of responsibility. I do believe that Bombay City is one of the finest cities in the world. Look at my city. There's nowhere else in the world you can go to 20 minutes from city center and see 25,000 flamingos. And I don't want the Trans-Harbour link to drive them away. The brand equity of my city will fall. I have a garland of mangroves. They're the finest protection against climate change. I have a national park, 103 square kilometers, 80 square kilometers added to it. There isn't a city in the world you can fit 8 central parks inside my national park, which has more butterflies than the entire United Kingdom, more bird species than the entire United Kingdom. What I lack, and this is not just from the leaders or the chief minister or the municipal corporation, it's from all of us, is the understanding that this is my wealth. If I just keep thinking that I can squander this wealth, or I can, so long as I get a little bit out of this, and drive the flamingos away and ruin the mangroves and say that the mangroves are causing the floods, I'm afraid that's what's been said, then I think we deserve the problems that are going to be foisted on us.
Parking should be as costly as it becomes, so that people don't buy second and third and fourth cars. I, as a public officer, I would like to see Mumbai as clean as any other city in the world. I would like to appeal the citizens also to cooperate with the corporation to make the city as clean as any other city in the world. My personal choice is to reduce waste as much as possible in all walks of life.
What I really want to do is to propagate and advocate climate change, adaptation and mitigation, especially for the children.
To this link. But I want to ask how many of you would be willing to remain, say about 10 minutes more, so that we can get some interaction between yourselves and all of the panelists. You've had a chance to speak with some of the panelists, but not everyone. So can I see a show of hands for people who would not object to remaining here for another 10 to 15 minutes? If you're in the majority, we'll just stay. People who have to leave, please do so. Okay, Sanjukta, can you stand up and speak, please?
I think the issue is that we have been looking the whole thing from a huge environmental perspective, and what we miss out is the sociological aspect of the whole thing. Where is the Maslow's hierarchy playing a role in this whole thing? Second is from the corporate perspective. If we see a country like ours, which is so much used to the compliance aspect of it, less than 3% of corporates today publish CSR reports. And what is the kind of CSR reports that they are publishing? Environment, 1 page. And if we see the remaining, they do have a GRI compliance, and they would put out all the AAAs and all those kind of things would be out there. But it would be hugely focused towards philanthropy aspect of it.
The gentleman over there. Yeah, I know. There are at least four more hands.
We say that the collegians or the youngsters are the future of our country. But then if you just walk in front of all these colleges, or you watch students at the stations or anywhere, they are the most, they are the responsible to spread pollution and, wastage on the road. So why not start the concept of educating students at the college level rather than educating children at the primary level? And also corporates. We have something, I think so, BNNHS has come out with the 10 commandments. Why not affix all those 10 commandments in all corporates, behind every salary slip, in all societies? It's got something very, it's got a message to talk about,
Okay. I'm a student of economics, and my question is more related to environmental economics. India being a developing economy, there are certain dynamics over here which are underplay. Firstly, eco-friendly technologies are expensive, and investment, research and development these is a bit of a problem for a developing economy. Second of all, we're looking at industrial growth, and we're looking at FDI coming in, and we as a government do not want to put too many environment restrictions on companies that are coming in. And for industrial growth, we're looking at profits as one of the most important mechanisms of growth, and so that is why we're putting environmental responsibilities at the end of our priorities. And so for a developing economy, how then do you bring environmental issues up to the fore, where the government can more emphatically put forward policies on that place?
How many of us are going to change? We need to change first. We're just putting up questions of this is not changing, that is not happening, and a lot of other things. It's not that only the government or the other people who are sitting on that side of fence, like we point out a finger to the environmentalist of this is your job.
Mr. Pavan Sukhdev.
The most important thing, in my opinion, the most important thing, and one of the panelists mentioned this, is for the city of Bombay to raise its voice. This city has the largest concentration of educated, aware, intelligent people and professionals in the whole country. When Bombay speaks, India listens. And that, friends, is the challenge that I present to you and the opportunity. Speak up.
The design concept, ecosystem or eco-friendly design concept itself says that your product has to be cheaper. It is not true that anything which is eco-friendly is going to be expensive.
Civil society and philanthropic work is good, but it's not sustainable. It's always person-driven. You said something about that. When the person changes, everything changes. Public-private partnerships, to my mind, are a good idea. Delhi International Airport Limited spends how much on cleaning up its garbage per month? It earns 1 and 2.5 lakhs per month. Somebody is paying Delhi International Airport to clean up the garbage, take it out, recycle it. This is a good public-private partnership. Let's adopt best practices. Thank you.
To the lady who's speaking about economics, let me put it like this. We spoke about this earlier. There are only two parts of this world. One is the biosphere, everything that was there before we were there, what nature made. And the other is the technosphere. If the economists insist that growth is the only way that economics works, it cannot grow without eating into the biosphere.
On the issues of economics, I don't think environment is bad economics, because you are not taking everything into your cost-benefit analysis. If you take all costs of any technology, even the future costs which your technology is going to generate, including the carbon footprints, you will find that the environmental friendly technologies are most cost-effective technologies.
My thanks to all of our panelists. We've had a good discussion. It's the beginning, of course, of a conversation. It's not a conclusion to a conversation. We've had a number of excellent suggestions for what can be done, from the transport system of the city to the use of vermiculture in transforming garbage dumps and creating jungles in cities. I sense a great deal of civic pride from the people who are on this side of the table in the city itself, and confidence in its future. But I think one of the clearest messages that is coming out from this conversation is the need for greater cooperation across the divides of governance, private sector and public sector. All of you have mentioned the need, though you haven't used that word, for partnership, for co-governance agendas, and importantly, for everyone to show a strong degree of public spirit and take civic pride and show leadership on these issues. So I look forward to us returning to this city in, say, 6 months to a year and find out how much further you've gone down the road of understanding climate change and its implications for your city and for your future. If you would like to take any of these issues further, please turn to the website Climate Challenge India, www.climatechallengeindia.org, and please join us once again for a city dialogue on climate change from another one of India's great cities. Thank you.